you haven't heard the news over the weekend and so on and so forth, I think this started Thursday, went into Friday, went into Saturday and Sunday, and this has been the hot topic thus far, is that Henry Cavill will be leading the charge for a Warhammer 40k cinematic universe. A man who is a huge fan of the IP, has already promised to do right by it, and is trying to do everything he can to give you a more accurate depiction of a live-action version. Well, accurate depiction, that's yet to be seen. That being said, Henry Cavill is a very avid fan of this project, has promised to give people the closest to accurate portrayal that he can. 100%, some things won't be able to get translated over. Some things just don't translate over that well and from one medium to another. That's just a reality of things. I talk about this in the world of anime a couple times. You know, it's really hard to translate Full Metal Alchemist to live action just because of some of the things that go on, some of the little minute things that just you can't translate, facial details, things like that. Now, I am going to start getting into the lore of Warhammer. I'm very fond of the fan base. I love how, I'm trying to think of the word. I love how protective they are and how much they do love this fan base. I mean, this franchise, IP, whatever you want to call it. This world of 40k. Henry Cavill is one of the people that love this world. And I find that very admirable. I find that a very poignant take. Also, to all the people saying, oh, Amazon's going to get their hands on it and do Amazon stuff. No. Amazon only has the licensing to distribute the show. They cannot touch it. The person who has the full control of the show is basically Henry Cavill, because the company that owns the rights now is a company that is I don't want to say being helmed, but one of their top people is Henry Cavill's girlfriend, somebody who he really, really loves, and they really, really love each other. Yeah, so he basically does have complete control over this IP as a cinematic or film or the thing that you're going to see on your screen. He has that control. We will see how that goes, but CBR, sometimes I will give CBR, ShieldBR, Kotaku, Polygon, I'll give them all credit when credit is due. There will be an article today that I go over from Kotaku. I'm going to give them credit on. Not going to go into their freaking points. They did a good a good article recently. CBR has done some good articles, but this is a warning to Henry Cavill kind of article. This is an article saying, Henry better prepare himself for the toxic fans. And we'll get into some of this stuff. And we'll get into Henry Cavill's response to the idea of toxic fans after I read this article. Because Henry Cavill doesn't believe in the toxic fan moniker. He doesn't believe fans are toxic or evil or bad and that you should be kind of spitting on them. No, he respects the fans. He is a fan. He is Geek Prime. He is a kind man, a gentleman from my understanding, and a very fun individual who is awesome to be around. From my understanding, I had somebody critique that, and that's my understanding of him. So let's get into the article, shall we? Henry Cavill's Warhammer 40k series could be The Witcher all over again. What? Henry Cavill wanted to dive into the world of 40k on screen for decades, but Witcher fans have nothing on diehards for the Games Workshop tabletop RPG. Well, here's the thing though, when you're trying to conflate Witcher fans to the Games Workshop the 40k fans, one, Henry Cavill is a fan of both. Two, Witcher fans despise the Netflix series, despise Lauren Hissrich, and we'll get into that, for what she did to the Witcher series, for what she did to Henry Cavill, for what she did to all the stuff there. And honestly, even critics are starting to call out the new one, Blood and Bone, whatever it's called, Blood and Wine. I watched the first season and I left because I was not. I want The Witcher and the Witcher series. So let's get into this. James Gunn's new plans for the DC Universe killed Man of Steel 2 and that version of Superman. For now, no, I don't think he's coming back. Sadly to say, I would like to see Henry as Superman, but he's not coming back. Still, fans who thought Henry Cavill left The Witcher for the role may have been half right. Well, he did leave The Witcher for Superman. He came out and said that for that role. But he also is now going to be doing his own thing. Because now he's working on a Warhammer 40k cinematic universe at Amazon Studios. So that's the point. A lot of people are seeing the Amazon. They're going to Wheel of Time. They're going to Lord of the Rings. They're going to the things of that nature. What they're discrediting is this show is going to be more online with Reacher, Terminalist. I don't think Invincible. I think Invincible is something else. I think Invincible is on the same page as Wheel of Time, Rings of Power, The Boys, where Amazon's actually creating the show, and then Terminalist, Reacher, Henry Cavill's Warhammer 40k will be licensed. Basically, Amazon only gets to distribute it. Yeah, somebody else is making it. Think of Edge Runners, Arcane, things of that nature. Those shows are more on par with what's going to be happening here. The once and future Geralt of Rivia. No, he only has one more season, so he's not the future. They're conflating it. Cavill appears in the forthcoming season 3. He's the once Geralt of Rivia. Loved both the books and video games. Actively campaigning for the role. However, if he loves a game more than the Witcher series, it's Warhammer 40k. Yeah, he's loved Warhammer since the beginning, from my understanding. He's an avid fan. He's an avid fan of everything that he does. He builds PCs, he plays Warhammer, he plays video games, he reads the Witchers, he reads the books. When it was announced that he was going to be working on I just had it. There can be only one. I'll come back to it. But that show, the reboot for that movie, I'm going with their Masters of the... No, I'll get it back. When he was announced to be doing that and being the lead role, he was going to be researching his Scottish heritage. He was going to be researching the source material. He was going to do everything he can to properly prepare for that role. Is that movie still moving forward? I don't know. Highlander, that's what it was, when he was put on for Highlander. I don't know if that's still moving forward. I'm interested, but he was set to be the main character, and he was researching a lot to be that character. So he is a good actor as well. He wants to be as close to source as possible. But back to this. A sci-fi tabletop role-playing game with extensive miniatures. Expensive too, not just extensive. There's tons of them. It's a 35-year-old universe. Ooh, that's actually pretty old. With a fan base that makes DC and The Witcher fans seem like erudite scholars. Erudite? I don't know what that means. Debating civilly at one of those clubs where even everyone has to wear the same jacket. Okay, so right off the bat, they're calling fans of 40k bad people because they are passionate fans. They are protective fans, and they love their work. They love what the Games Workshop has made. They are very protective. They are willing to tell you, hey, if you want to get involved, start here, here, and here. Go do this. Go look at this guy. Do this, do this, do this. Properly get involved. Know the lore if you want to know the lore. If you want to get involved here, here, here. But then they'll debate you. That nerds like to debate. Nerds like to argue. Nerds like to discuss. I go back to 2 weeks ago on, it was Saturday Night Drive-In over on Adam, the Renaissance Nerds channel, where we had a debate on whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie. That's a nerd level debate. Nerds like to debate and fight about this stuff. Just what we do. We love this stuff and we like to argue. It's how we roll. And guess what? Afterwards, we continued talking for 2 hours behind the scenes. Because we were having fun, because we're friends. That's what we do. Me and Silver, we argue from time to time too. He likes Avatar. I don't. He likes some parts of Star Wars. Not Star Wars, Transformers. Why did I conflate those two? Excuse me. He likes parts of Transformers that I don't. We argue on Gundam, and we both love Gundam. He likes Seed, I like Unicorn, I like G Gundam, he hates G Gundam. We argue, but we're still friends. That's what fans do. And to try to say, well, they're worse than Witcher fans or the DC fans, no. We're all fans of the same thing, we just do it differently. The fandom perhaps most akin to Warhammer adherents is Star Wars. Well, Star Wars fans are, you have to break that down. Are you talking about the the Disney Reylos that are weird, that have actively destroyed the fandom? Or are you talking about the EU fans, the proper fans, the people that like the OT, like the before four times, and want Star Wars to be proper? That's the arguments there. OT, the pre-Disney fans, can debate with pre-Disney fans all day night and still move on to the future. OT fans can debate with sequel fans, Clone Wars fans, so on, prequel fans, not sequel, so on and so forth. The moment they get to a sequel fan, it breaks down because sequel fans only like Disney. They don't care about the past. They don't care what's on about anything. They want that. There are many generations of fans, and they're all angry at the parent company Games Workshop rather than Disney. Well, I don't know anything about that. From my understanding, Games Workshop has done some things that are kind of sketchy. Have done some things that are kind of BS. But making Games Workshop Plus, I think it's called, where you have to go there to get all access to Warhammer books and stuff, or some of that things, where they're going to be higher copyright striking people for making fan-made stuff. Yeah, you can be angry about that. You can be angry at the parent company. That's fine. Because sometimes the parent company starts disrespecting the IP you like. Sometimes I'm angry at Pokemon. Sometimes I'm angry at Bandai. Sometimes I'm angry at all the other parent companies that have made stuff that I like. So what? That's what fans do. We like our IP. For Workshop rather than Disney. For something. Geeks are gonna geek. They're gonna get upset if the IP is being disrespected. Is what it is. If Cavill's geek clout and lessons learned promoting his last series can be marshaled to their full ability, the Warhammer cinematic universe could become huge. So, no. The lessons he learned, you're right, the lessons he learned from promoting his last series, the lessons he learned was be respectful to the source material. He himself was saying, hey, let's be more respectful to the source material. Remember, there was a few months ago where a writer for Witcher left the series, came out and said, it wasn't Henry Cavill that was the problem. It was the writers, it was Lauren Hisrich, it was everybody else who had the problem. They actively hated the source material. Henry Cavill loved it. Henry Cavill just wanted to be more accurate to the source material. So when he came out to go do the promotions, he was kind of like, hey, I'm not a big fan of what they did here. I like it more to the source material, and the fans want it more to the source material. That's what Henry was doing. So he has learned something to make this huge. Don't do a Lauren Hisrich. How fans handle inevitable lore changes in the Warhammer series could make or break it. Depends on the lore changes. Depends on what you're changing. Because, like I said earlier, some things just don't translate. Now, I'm not deep into Warhammer lore. I'm not deep. I'm going to start getting deep. I'm going to start getting deep into it. In my free times, I'm going to start listening to the Warhammer lore. I'm going to start reading. I'm going to do what I can. Because I want to properly respect this along with the Warhammer fans. But like I've said with anime, like I've said with like I've been starting to say with comics, some stuff just can't translate because it's a little too cartoonish or something. Now, with Henry Cavill being the head, the executive producer, the lead actor, the person who's basically in charge of this franchise, I think he's going to do it as close as humanly possible to it. Some things might just, CGI might not be able to do it. Computer work might not be able to make it just right. So there might be little tweaks here or there that he has to make. That's just the reality of some things. I'm pretty sure he's going to get as close to possible. Along with Henry Cavill, Warhammer superfans Ryle Cohill and Asa Butterfield also are game for an adaptation. Franchise owner Games Workshop definitely wants its famous fans involved in the series. Well, how are they going to fit in? How are they going to be a part of this? I don't know. They have a little article here and I'll read it, but I'm curious on what they're going to do. Or if they actually will be involved, if Henry will allow them to be involved, or if they just want to be involved to do their own little thing. Because if they want to do their own little thing, Henry's not going to let them on. I'm pretty sure of that. Henry wants good source material. Go back to his responses to the fan Toxic, for his responses to Lauren Hisrich saying, hey, can we do this? Hey, can we do that? Remember the Roach death scene for season 2 of The Witcher? That scene was critically loved. Fans loved it. Everybody loved that scene. That was Henry Cavill's scene. That was Henry Cavill saying, hey, let's do this instead of what Lauren Hisrich did. That scene was loved. It was accurate to the book. Had no quip or anything. Lauren Hisrich wanted to make that whole scene into a joke. What Henry Cavill did made it as close to the book as possible, as close to the lore as possible, the source material, and it was beloved. So I have my faith in Henry Cavill. Especially if it prefers the series to hew closely, that sounds so weird, to already published books. I think what they're trying to say here is if they want the series to be the new lore instead of the already published books, where Henry Cavill's not going to let that happen. Henry Cavill is going to go as close to those books as humanly possible, as close to the published works as humanly possible. That's why we love Henry. That's why Henry is such a good person. That's why Henry is Geek Prime, because he knows the lore. He's going to do it to the best of his humanly physical capabilities. That sounded weird, but he's going to do right by this in my book. Yet, no matter how faithful everyone wants it to be, any adaptation will have to make changes. Yes. What are the changes, though? Are we talking about maybe a different color? Are we talking about maybe, hey, we just couldn't fit this person in because of this reason? Like, certain things just change. It depends on the change. It depends on what you're doing. We're not talking about completely diminishing Witcher and raising up somebody else in The Witcher show. We're not talking about taking away somebody's powers and making her a scientist for The Witcher show when that wasn't in the books or the games. We're not talking about that. Those are changes that are lore breaking. Henry Cavill wants it as close to the lore as possible. So, any adaptation will have to make some changes? Yes, sometimes time limits, sometimes things of that nature. Henry's going to do his best. Sometimes fans overlook this. Yes, small color change, small discussion here that wasn't actually a thing. Who knows what it is? Take a look at House of the Dragon. They have a whole group of people that aren't accurate to the books. I end up overlooking it because their characters are relatively accurate to the books. House of the Dragon changed stuff from the books to the show. Don't really care because the show's pretty darn good. You can overlook it if what you are making is is a little bit better. If you're staying as close as possible, maybe have to make a change here or there. That's when people can overlook it. When you can't overlook it is what you did to The Witcher. Okay, those are two different things. An already fractious fan base may be just looking for a reason to be angry. Well, who says they're just looking for a reason to be angry? Who says I'm ever looking for a reason to be angry? No, I want it to be close to the source material. I want it to be as close to humanly possible. And if you can get it as close to there as possible, I'll be happy. Some things might just not be able to translate. Especially when cheered on by clickbait and YouTube trolls. Well, considering Henry Cavill is a person that even the clickbait and YouTube trolls relatively love and think is a cool dude and acknowledge that he's a geek, unless something really major happens, chances are they're just going to be nitpicking and doing nerd debates. Like MCU Phase 1. Nerd debates all over the place because they were nitpicking. We were going about, but we were lore fans. We were people that liked the source material. And yeah, there was reasonable things to debate on. Should Thor be wearing his helmet all the time? Is the Iron Man suit properly designed? Captain America. Do we like how Captain America was portrayed? Things of that nature are what we harp on. Hawkeye. We harp on the fact that Hawkeye wasn't in his suit at all. He never had his full costume on. Those are the things we were debating back then. Now we're debating full lore changes. So those are two different things. Your YouTube trolls are the people putting out that you've gone so far, you've lost the plot. Those are the people you're angry about. Luckily, Cavill already went through this with The Witcher. You're right, but he never called these people clickbait and YouTube trolls. He called them something else. He called them fans. Because you come over here and we'll play. I'm going to get as close to the point as possible real quick. I should have already had this set up, and we're going to start like right about here. And I'm going to make sure real quick that my desktop audio's on. I'll bump it up a bit.
Superhero movie. Like, you have great intentions, but there are always going to be a small yet vocal group of people there can kind of just be toxic.
I understand what you're saying, but when it comes to fans, it is a fan's right.
It is a fan's right. What is he saying? He's saying fans have fans are the ones that get to be angry. And why?
To have whatever opinion they want to have. And people are going to be upset because, especially when you're talking about books or games, because you're never going to be the exact person who they had in their head or who they played on Witcher 3, for example. I don't necessarily consider that toxic. I just consider that passionate.
Henry's already mitigated all this stuff because Henry knows what he's about to get into. Henry likes the fact that we debate this stuff. He doesn't call us toxic. He doesn't call us all this stuff that CBR's before anything's happened is already calling fans toxic. Is already calling people toxic and saying Henry has a hard thing ahead of him. Because of the Witcher fans. Because of these people. Because of these toxic trolls. No, Henry doesn't consider us toxic trolls. Henry considers us fans. Henry considers us people that are, as he said in his own word, passionate. So let's continue, shall we? While Cavill is effusive in his praise, effusive, I don't know what that word means. Somebody's going to correct me. In his praise for the source material, showrunner Lauren Histrich is accused of hating it. No, it's pretty obvious that she hated it. It's above obvious that she hated the source material. She went on Twitter and started bashing people for not liking it. It went so far as the Quartering and her had a back and forth. Then, so we're seeing what's coming next. Again, from the minds of Lauren Histrich, from the people that are making The Witcher. Nobody likes it. They know that you hate it. They know that you're just destroying it, and people don't want to watch it anymore. So much that you're begging people to watch your stuff so you can continue making it. One reason she faces this critique is for highlighting women's perspectives since the show wasn't bound by the third-person POV narrative structure of the books and games. Well, no, what you highlighted, what you did, because you can do some of that stuff, like the books even allow you to do that, the games allow you to do that. What you did, though, was you completely diminished Henry Cavill, you completely diminished The Witcher, the show that, the star of the show, for Ciri, for, and I cannot remember her name, this lady, for the other people that might have had decent roles in the books, but you completely changed their points in the books. You completely changed everything. And that's why Henry decided to leave, because he couldn't stand watching you guys just hate something that he loved. Watching you guys just hate the fans of the product that he loved. That's why people were criticizing you. So don't say, well, she was highlighting a perspective. No, she was bastardizing the source material, hating it, and so on and so forth. She wasn't doing anything but hated the fans that liked the source. When you stay accurate to the source, you can do awesome stuff. You can show awesome things. But you can't do that because you think it's too toxic. Another is that known characters were killed before they were supposed to be or were rewritten entirely. Maybe that's a more poignant point. Maybe that's a point, that this point right here, rewritten entirely, maybe that's what people are more mad about. That you completely destroyed the source material for your show to the point that the source material is the only thing that people like. They don't like the show. They think the show was the awful thing and they quit watching it. They're joking on it now. That new Witcher series has last I checked, had a 39 critics score. That's the critics. That's the people who are championing the show forever. They don't even want to watch it. I don't think anybody's going to be watching your show anymore because you ruined any good faith. You hated on the fans. You hated on the source material. You lost Henry Cavill. You hated on everything to the point that we left. That's why Lauren Hissrich is considered awful and people don't like her. That's why, because she bastardized the source. This, of course, happened on Game of Thrones. There were people that harped on Game of Thrones, by the way. There were people that harped on what Game of Thrones did for both House of the Dragon. For both House of the Dragon and the original series, people harped on it. People don't even like season 6 through 8, I believe. I'm indifferent towards about season 6. Yeah, season 6, because I like the Battle of the Bastards. But people harped on that show from day one because they weren't staying true to the source material. George Martin said, hey, I'm here. But then he left and they ran out of source material to adapt. So George Martin gets some disdain. House of the Dragon at least has source material, but they also have diverged from the source material in some parts. They've also gone off the rails. Remember season 9, the episode 9 of the source of House of the Dragon? People hated that episode. People really had disdain for that episode because it broke the rules. It broke the world. It didn't make sense and had you didn't do right things. You didn't do right by what people were expecting. You completely changed characters even from within the rules of the show. So yes, there were people vocal about that. But at least for Game of Thrones, from season 1 to 5, you had goodwill. You were trying. 6 to 8, people left because they didn't like it anymore. House of the Dragon is working with a half slate because people won't come back. But unlike George R.R. Martin, this is the writer for I just had the name for Witcher, and I'm gonna butcher it because it's Polish. Andrzej Spakowski. Yeah, we're calling him Spakowski. Isn't doing press cheerleading for the show. Maybe because he also acknowledges that the show's bad. Maybe he doesn't like the show. That's a thing. George Martin, yeah, he did press tours for the show, but even afterwards, people hated Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is on the rise again, but people really don't want to watch it. People still don't like season 8. People still don't like to watch past season 5. They stop at season 5. Because they don't like what happens next. So you have to also acknowledge Game of Thrones has hate. Well, disdain. I don't think hate is the right word. Disdain is the proper word. Press cheerleading for the show. This drama began back in casting phase when all the characters weren't white and Northern European. Oh, there it is. The fact people want characters to be more accurately cast to the show. People want it to be more accurate. So, because of that, because they aren't where the show's set, you're going to call them all racist. There's a difference here, okay? That's the reality. You don't see us coming out and saying all this stuff for... I'm trying to think of a good example. For Japanese-based shows. Because we expect them to be kind of Japanese. Because they're set in Japan. We don't say that for a lot of that stuff. When we do say it, though, is when you've already said, hey, we're going to change this because diversity. But you don't want true diversity. But that's our little racisms. Warhammer parent company Games Workshop already had to address this particular issue in a 2020 statement affirming their commitment to diversity. Skin color. That's all they care about is skin color, not diversity, not true diversity. And let's read this. Warhammer community. Warhammer is for everyone. One of the great powers of our hobby is its ability to bring people together in common cause, to build bonds and friendship that cross divides. We believe in and support a community united by shared values of mutual kindness and respect. Our fantasy settings are grim and dark, but that is not a reflection of who we are and how we feel the real world should be. Oh. Wow. Okay. We will never accept nor condone any form of prejudice, hatred, or abuse in our company or in the Warhammer hobby. Well, what are you talking about? I've never seen any of this stuff. I've seen avid fans that want you to stay close to the source material, not butcher it. And I've seen people come out against some of the changes that you're making because it doesn't make sense and you're butchering the source material. But at the same time, hey, what are you talking about? We will continue to diversify the cast of characters we portray through miniatures, art, and storytelling so everyone can find representation and heroes they can relate to. Well, I mean, half these heroes end up dying, let's be real. This is a world of dark, grim death and destruction where everybody just dies, so... okay. And if you feel the same way wherever and whoever you are, we're glad you are a part of the Warhammer community. If not, you will not be missed. Oh, there it is. Hating people for maybe wanting you to stay true to what you created originally. Maybe not wanting to change things for modern audiences and modern sensibilities. Because they want you to say what it was. If Cavill and company are able to get ahead of the big story changes, well, what any big story changes? Who says he's going to be doing any major story changes? Who says he's not going to be just going full down on the source? What are the story changes is he going to do? Maybe he won't even do it. Maybe he's just going to make minor changes that he just can't get past because it just doesn't work right. Take Lord of the Rings, for example. There's changes from the books to the Jackson series. People still love the Jackson series because it stayed true to the source, stayed true to Tolkien. People hate Rings of Power because it wasn't Tolkien. People are mixed on The Hobbit because decisions were made, let's be real. Parts of The Hobbit I like, parts of The Hobbit I hate. But we all come together on the Jackson trilogy. And there are people that still don't like the Jackson trilogy. No Tom Bombadil, no Tom this, no, well, not Tom this, but no, just some things that weren't there that the Jackson trilogy people wanted. So, what is the story changes? And how are they mitigated by the fact that Henry Cavill wants to stay as close to the themes as close to the source as humanly possible, those are things to take into consideration. Meaning, not letting it leak online first. Oh, so don't show anybody what you're making, and then don't let any of the behind-the-scenes stuff leak, because maybe we want you to have trans Jenga Space Marine be able to beat up some pre-made thing that is supposed to be the strongest thing in the world. I don't know. Maybe that's what they want, and I don't think Henry Cavill's going to do that. Their fan cred could help smooth potentially choppy waters. Well, yeah, because Henry Cavill's probably going to stay as close as possible. However, when it comes to fandoms like these, there's sometimes nothing that anyone could say. It's not what was done. It's any change at all they're angry about. No, because they care about the source material. And right off the bat, CBR is trying to say Henry Cavill's going to be dealing with toxic fans, but as we said earlier, Henry doesn't view fans toxic. Henry views them as passionate and says they are allowed to be angry. He's already said that you're never going to make all fans happy because you're never going to live up to their expectations. And that's okay, and they have the right to be angry. They have the right to say, hey, we don't like this. And Henry's right. And he's going to be expecting some disdain to his work. Some people that say, hey, I don't like it because of this reason. Hey, I don't like this because of that reason. Hey, I don't like it. He's fine with that because he knows that those are fans. He knows that those are nerd debates. And I'm willing to bet Henry Cavill would be more than happy to have those nerd debates. But with all that said, are you guys looking forward to Henry Cavill's Warhammer 40k cinematic universe? God, that's a mouthful. And if you are, give me your thoughts down in the comments below. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, share it out with your friends, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell for every time I put out a new video and go live. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.